All right, we are going to try to recreate last night's flight from Miami to Tampa, but hopefully this time we'll actually be able to land and use the ILS. So let's go ahead and set things up here. I currently have the flight plan already plugged in, so the flight plan is set to KMIA, WinCo, and then KTPA. But I would like to set up a SID and star. So normally when I fly, I don't do SID and stars that often when I'm flying general aviation aircraft, but I would like to see how that's going to play out today. So we have our flight plan on the screen for anyone that's interested in following along. We're going to be taking off from Miami on runway 09, and we are going to be arriving in Tampa at runway 01 left. Yesterday's flight, first time in the Cirris Vision SF50. It was a good flight, however, like I said, quite new. So now that I understand the aircraft a little bit more, I would like to go for something a little more real. And I did the air traffic control through X-Plane 11 yesterday, and it was okay. However, we, as expected, I guess, ran into a couple issues. And one of the folks yesterday showed me a feature that I wasn't expecting to behave the way it did, which was the parachute. So anyone that has not used the Cirris Vision SF50, there is a parachute and it does work. And if you watch the live stream from yesterday at the tail end, you will see that it actually does what it's supposed to do. So let's go ahead and select our SID, our departure from KMIA. We'll select procedure and we'll go to departure. And we will fly the WinCo 2 departure, if we can find that. So let's have a look. There it is. And we're going to be taking off from runway 09. Perfect. And we'll load that. So we're going from KMIA to our standard instrument departure for that particular runway. And then we will fly to the WinCo waypoint and then to Tampa. So let's actually go ahead and load our approach for Tampa. We're going to be landing on 01 left and doing an ILS landing. And I would like to see what my options are here. Usually I can select the actual star. I'm not seeing the star here. In the flight management computer on the airliners, you can see the star. I don't see it now, but ILS 01, so that's definitely what we'll be flying. And I'm not going to be doing a GPS approach. So perhaps as we get a little further, we'll see what that does. But usually I could actually set this up in such a way that you can select the actual star or standard arrival route that we would like to pick. So normally that is right about here. So I'm not quite sure. I don't see it. Procedures. Try one more time. Approach. Perhaps it's approach or arrival. Let's try. Oh, there we go. Arrival. Okay. So we are going to look for the Deke 5 arrival. There it is. And we will load. LPV is fine. And we will, so I guess that's going to be GPS. Is there an ILS one here that I can pick? Let's try it again. Arrival. Deke 5. And I don't see an ILS approach, so we'll just go ahead and pick that. Oh, sorry, that's just the transition, so that's fine. And let's look for runway 01 left. There we go. And load. So now if we go back to our flight plan, let's have a look. It's starting to look a little complicated. We have Miami, our departure from Miami, going to our arrival, and we have one waypoint before that, which is WinCo. This is our star into Tampa, and then away we go. So it looks like we actually have two here. So that's interesting. So I'm actually going to, for now, delete that, and we'll add the arrival later. So we'll just stick with the star, or sorry, the SID, the departure, and we will deal with the actual arrival when we get closer to Tampa. So we're good to go. Let's go ahead and get on to the runway here. So sitting at the hangar, let's just get a pushback. We'll go to the flight menu and show the ground handling window. And I will just get a pushback straight.
Okay, a push cart is on it.
So while we're waiting for our push cart, this particular lever here was what we clicked on last night to actually deploy the parachute. So that was pretty fun. So I definitely recommend you guys check that out sometime. Let's find out if our push cart is coming or if we're just going to go ahead and take off the old-fashioned way. We'll give it another minute or so, and then we'll just go without it. And there's a train going by in the distance. See some people watching. So for those of you that just tuned in, we did a live flight yesterday from Miami to Tampa. It was kind of fun. First time flying the Cirris Vision SF50, learned a lot of things. However, we couldn't do an ILS landing, and I, in the moment, forgot to actually activate the CDI to nav. So now that I'm aware of that and I remember that, I'm going to go ahead and try this again. So there's our push cart. So I will let go of the brake and we'll get our push to the runway. Looking about a 45-minute to an hour flight from Miami to Tampa, sorry.
You paid the fuel bill, right?
There we go. All right, a little bit of humor there from X-Plane. And apparently it just drives right through the aircraft. So let's go ahead and line up to runway 09. We did the ATC yesterday, so we're just going to fly the GPS route that I have planned and avoid the X-Plane air traffic control for now. Let's have a look-see. All right. Doing a bit of taxiing. Miami's a big airport, so there is lots of activity here normally. To save your guys' ears, we learned another lesson yesterday. There was a lot of chatter on the air traffic control. It made painful for a lot of folks to listen. So I just turned that off. For those of you that don't know how, if you go into your flight configuration screen, there is a AI aircraft button at the top right. And if you click on that, you can select how many AI aircraft you're flying with. And if you are wanting to simulate a whole lot of aircraft, okay, that might be fun. However, it does make it difficult that if I'm trying to speak and give you guys some instructions, some tips, and then all of a sudden air traffic control kicks in, well, it's going to make it pretty difficult to hear. So I just turned that off for now. All right, we're about to turn on to runway 09. So I have my heading set on the plane to 90. We'll be flying the heading out and following a standard departure for our waypoint Winco 02. So let's go ahead and get ready to line up here. Zoom in a little bit. There we go. Alrighty. Let's get our flaps down. Give the aircraft a quick once-over, make sure everything's okay. Hey, Wojtek. Thanks very much for your feedback there. I'll be creating some more tutorials very shortly. I'm just trying to create a couple live streams. I'm trying to get my streaming settings configured correctly and see how this works, and then I'll go back to creating tutorials. So let's have a look at the primary flight display. You can see I have a heading set to 090. We're going to set our cruising altitude to 15,000 feet. And I will just adjust the small inner knob here. There we go. So we're going to take off. We're going to get to about 1,500 feet or so. I'll then activate the autopilot and put it into GPS mode. You can see here the CDI is already configured for the GPS. So our first waypoint will actually be Senroy here, which is about 7.9 nautical miles away. We'll get up to 15,000 feet and we'll be on our way. So everything's set for takeoff. Everything looks good. Let's go ahead and take off, folks. So as I mentioned, I'm quite new to the Cirris Vision SF50. I've been wanting to fly it for a long time. However, it's been kind of incomplete in X-Plane 11 up until the latest update, X-Plane 11.10. Now that the update's out there, the glass cockpit has been installed in this plane as well as the Cessna 172. So it's a fairly fun aircraft to fly now. So let's flaps up, landing gear up. And we can go ahead and turn off our landing lights now. There we go. And we're almost at 1,500 feet. So I'm going to activate the autopilot. I'm going to activate nav mode. And since we're set to GPS, it'll automatically take us there. The next thing I'm going to do is activate what's called flight level change. So by clicking flight level change, it's going to remember the current speed I'm at. So if I'm at a speed of 169, it's going to lock me in at that speed as I ascend. So I click FLC. Now you can see here GPS is activated, the autopilot is activated, and I'm on a flight level change of 168. So that means I will not raise an altitude any higher. My pitch will remain the same to keep me at this 168 knots. So if I actually increase my throttle a little bit more, then it'll let me go for a little steeper ascent there. Hello, Eldar, how you doing? So we are on our way to 15,000 feet. And if you guys can tell me on the live stream if you can see the ticker bar updating, like I don't know if you can see the departure and arrival airport as well as the nautical miles remaining as well as the estimated time of arrival. So if I can't see both the chat and the Open Broadcaster Studio screen, so if you guys can let me know if that's updating, that would be great. And things are looking good so far. Let's have a zoom in. On our way up to 15,000 feet, speed of 168 knots. Looks like we're 2.5 nautical miles away from our next waypoint. So let's go ahead and zoom down a little bit and see what's going on. And then once we level out at our 15,000 feet, I'll go ahead and decrease the throttle a little bit. So we should be doing that soon. Let's look at the multifunction display. We can see our turn. We're going to be turning out very soon to our next waypoint. There we go. And my N1 engine's at 98%. So once we hit our altitude, I will decrease that down to about 75–80%. Thanks, Planes, and Leon. I'm glad that it's updating there. I had quite a few bugs with the Ben overlay yesterday. I changed the ticker tapes and the overlay that I have a little bit, so that's why I'm interested in how things are working. It should be a little bit clearer. I'm also showing the frames per second that I'm getting in X-Plane now, so you'll see the very top right is the progress, and just to the left of that is the ticker tape. So you'll now be able to see all the information that I have at my disposal, the wind and all that stuff as well. So let's have a look. Looks like we're at 10,000 feet on our way to 15,000. Beautiful day in Miami. And for those of you that are wondering why I'm doing the same flight again, it's not because I'm trying to repeat things. I want to be able to practice and get it right. So yesterday's flight, we did an okay job, but we used the X-Plane 11 air traffic control, and it did an okay job, but did talk over my microphone quite a bit, so I turned that off. And also, we got a longer trip than normal, so it probably added about 35 minutes on there. Hey, Cole. So about an extra 30 minutes from the air traffic control. So I went to a website called simbrief.com. You do have to create an account. When you create your account, you're able to log in and enter in your departure and arrival airports. It'll then show you a bunch of other flight plans that other people have created in the past, and you can see your waypoints on a map. And on the screen on the ticker tape, you're going to see that there's a Winco 2 and then a Winco and then a Deke 5. So if you see a number at the end, what that is basically meaning, that is basically saying that is a SID or a star. So it's a departure procedure or it's an arrival procedure. So SID is their departure. So when you see Winco 2, I'm following the instructions for the Winco 2 departure. When you see Deke 5, I'm following the instructions for the Deke 5 arrival. And then the Winco in between is just one waypoint in this case. So sometimes there's multiple waypoints that you would follow. And it looks like we're leveling out here at 15,000 feet. My airspeed is increasing a bit, so to not have an overspeed, because we're seeing some yellow, I'm going to back off the throttle a little bit. So let's have a look at our multifunction display. You can see the N1 here. I'm going to pull it down to about, say, 85. There we go. And that's good for that. And you can see we're following our departure. So now we're coming in for a turn on our way to Tampa. So really love the glass cockpit, the G1000 that came in the update. We're doing some automated flying today using the GPS. You can see on the screen we have our waypoints. So we're almost out of the departure procedures. So when we get to Megan, we'll be on our way to Wilco. And then we'll have 125 nautical miles to Tampa. So we still have a ways to go, but we are on our way. For those of you that are unfamiliar with using the G1000, I created a video about a week ago, so I recommend that you watch that. Hey Antis, no, I try to stick with just native. So everything I have in X-Plane right now is just 100% native. I'm not using any plugins outside of the plugin that you see for the Steam overlay. There is all kinds of third-party plugins that you can get, but X-Plane 11.10 has done quite a good job of updating the scenery. There is a HD mesh add-on that I recently came across. I didn't install that yet, but that's something I'm considering. And as you can see, the graphics look really well. I'm also looking into virtual reality and how that works. So hopefully in the next, say, 4 to 6 weeks, I might have a Oculus Rift or HTC Vive. If you guys have any opinions on that, I haven't decided which one's better as of yet. But everything is default. I find that gives me higher frame rates than a bunch of custom add-ons, but I can definitely understand why people would want add-ons for sure. And beautiful day flying to Tampa. And I mentioned it several times already, but I'm just so excited that I was able to discover this feature thanks to one of the viewers yesterday, Sky. The Cessna, the Cirris Vision SF50 hey Sky, you're back. Yeah, so this flight's the same flight as yesterday, Sky, but no air traffic control. I've created my own flight plan using simbrief.com, and I posted the waypoints up top so you could follow along. That's the Wilco 2 departure going to Winco, and then Deeks 5 is the arrival, and I'm using the GPS. And I learned from a mistake yesterday. I figured out why the ILS landing did not work, and that is simply because I did not click the CDI button. So I had my approach button set, I had the ILS frequency tuned in, but I was a little bit on the dumb side and forgot to click the CDI button, and that is the reason why I was not able to get what I was hoping for yesterday. So we're going to try it again, and then we'll try some other flights another time, but I just can't give up on this. I have to get the ILS to work. It was fun to play with the parachute, though, I gotta say. That was pretty fun. So you're saying that the HTC has an upgraded screen, so I think that's the new one that they just announced at CES, so I might have to check that. So that's pretty cool. And I think I actually was, I think I was saying Sky there, so good catch there. Going back and forth between two monitors and zooming in, it's definitely some fun. So I just got my second monitor set up using the Acer Predator 34-inch curved monitor for my primary display. But when I record to YouTube, I have to kind of cut it down to 1440p. Not everyone has a 21:9 or resolution. Mostly people have 16:9. So that would give you guys black bars if I was to record like that. So I'm recording at that instead. So let's have a look. Let's check out things again. We are on our way to the Burrell waypoint. We have less than 5 nautical miles to get there. We're flying with the GPS activated and autopilot. And we're at 15,000 feet. So in 4 nautical miles, we'll be on our last point until we go direct into our Winco waypoint. So I'm not sure what's going to happen, folks. Again, a live flight, anything can happen. When we get the turn here going, I will go ahead and try to activate a approach here for KTPA and use that. So you have the Oculus. Awesome. Yeah, it's difficult. There was a sale on over the holidays with the Vive. I didn't buy it, and the Oculus definitely looks like it's cheaper. And I saw a couple folks demoing a first-person shooter with the Oculus the other day. The Vive the other day. So I'm kind of just sitting on the fence waiting. But ideally what I'd like to do, folks, and I'm a technology guy, so my background is IT. I'm also interested in potentially one day becoming a pilot, so I spend a lot of my time reading manuals and learning about flight and then teaching you guys this. But one of the things I've been trying to figure out, and I haven't been trying overly hard yet, but is I saw a couple examples of people that have created a 360-degree version of an X-plane flight. So that would be spectacular. So I don't know if I could do that with something like the Vive or not, but one of the things that is really cool is that this person has created this 360-degree flight so that when you're flying, anybody at any time can look at any view. So it doesn't matter if someone wants to zoom in on the cockpit or an instrument, or if someone wants to look out the window. Somehow the person's recording like 5 or 6 angles of the flight at the same time, and then has used software to stitch it together. So I don't know if there's a plugin for X-Plane that does that, but that would be really spectacular if there was a way to record multiple angles at the same time and stitch all this together. So Sly, not Sky, you want to see the flight plan. So really simple, actually. There's only 3 things in the flight plan. I entered KMIA for Miami, And then I entered in, ignore all the other points, okay, just focus on the 3 that are on the live stream. So KMIA, skip over all this junk, Winco, and then KTPA. And then what I did is when I got to KMIA, I selected the procedures button here, and then I selected a departure. And whenever I select a departure, I'm presented with this list. And you'll select the one that I have on the stream ticker up top, which is Winco 2, and then hit enter twice. And basically that will then put all this other stuff that you see on the screen here for the departure. And this is basically called a standard instrument departure, or SID. So we're almost completed of the SID. We got 2 nautical miles until we get to Winco, which is not part of the SID. So basically in 1.5 nautical miles we have officially flown the standard instrument departure for Miami. And then when we get a little closer to Tampa, I'm going to basically hit this procedures button again and select arrivals this time, and we will set ourselves up for an arrival. So now that it's looking like we're going to Winco, let's go ahead and do that. So we'll select KTPA for Tampa. We'll hit procedures. Approach is actually the runway we want, so I don't want to do that. So actually, let's just click it for fun for now. Let's see if I can do both. On the flight management computer, we might as well have some fun, folks. So on the flight management computer, you had to do the other first. So I just want to see what this lets me do. So ILS 01 left, that's definitely what we want to pick. And yeah, see it says vectors, yeah, so I don't like this. So we'll go back. And let's see what happened here. So it didn't do anything. So we'll go back to KTPA, procedures again. We will go to arrival. And we're going to select the direct 5. And this is our standard arrival route. And that's going to ask us which transition would we like. And I don't have the flight charts up right now, so I'm just going to accept that. And I might check SkyVector in a minute just to see what that's going to do to me. And we would like to take runway 01 left. Here we go. And we'll load it. So now if I go back to the flight plan here, and let's look at this. So it looks like it's going to take us to Rogan. So I'm not quite liking here what I see, because vectors is bad, so we're going to want to remove that. And yeah, I'm not quite liking what I see, so I'm going to have a look here in a minute. So I'm going to write this down, folks, so just give me a sec. It's a live flight, so we do have 100 nautical miles away, so it's not a big deal. So we have an LPV, we have the Rogan, R-O-G-A-N, we have a T-E-A-K-K. So I just want to look up those waypoints on SimBrief in a minute and see where that brings us from. So for now, I'll just leave it as is, and we will look at some beautiful sky for a sec. So thanks very much for your comments there. I'm glad that you guys are liking my my videos. Said I'm not a pilot by any means, so but I am a tech guy, so I am able to spend some time looking at the manuals for various flight management computers, and then I try to make very clear and concise videos, primarily for myself. So a lot of people wonder why I'm making these videos and spend so much time, but being a tech guy, switching between programming and managing Azure and cloud services and all kinds of crazy stuff, I often don't have a chance to do stuff every day, so you forget. So by making a video, I'll be able to come back to it in the future and teach myself again how it is that I need to do it. So let's have a look here. I'm just going to be looking at skyvector.com. So I'm not able to see your comments for a second, folks. Sorry about that. And I am going to just try to figure out what this waypoint is that it wants me to go to. So Winco first. So all I'm doing, I went to skyvector.com. You can't see this on my screen, but if you want to follow along, I'll walk you through it. So you go to skyvector.com. I selected flight plan. I typed in my departure of Miami, my destination of Tampa, and then I set Winco as the actual waypoint here. So Now I'm just trying to get a general idea here of what I need to do to get to that particular runway. So I'm not quite sure why it wants me to do what it wants me to do, but that is part of the game of trying to figure out. So we have a standard arrival here of this, and it wants to take me to Rogan, which is 29 nautical miles away. And it says that's where we're going now, actually. Then we're going to Derek, Jetstream, and then there. So let's have a quick look to see if we can figure out what we have gotten ourselves into, folks. Let's open up the X-plane map by pressing M on the keyboard. So you can see we're following this. Okay, there is our transition, LPV, so that's interesting. And I guess this is close to Tampa. So I guess we're just basically popping up here. So can we zoom in to see what our next waypoint is? It looks like it's Rogan. So we're going to go to LPV here. And then now let's see if we can find Rogan. I don't know if you guys see it on the screen. I could be blind. But I am looking for the Rogan waypoint. And I'm guessing once we get to LPV and the plane just goes to it, we'll figure out where that is. But I'd like to know where it is. Oh, there we go, Rogan. Okay, so we're following this flight path. So then let's have a look. The next one is Derek. So let's see if we can find that. Or Drek 5. Okay, and what is this airport? This is Tampa. Okay, cool. So this is where we're going. And now where is Drek 5? I don't see it here. Zoom in and zoom out. So we're ultimately following this particular highway here, airway. We're going to go to LPV. We're going to go to this waypoint over here, Rogan, and now I would like to see where this Drek 5 is. Just be sure. We also have a Jetstream one. So let's play a game called Find the Waypoint. If you guys know a better way of this than what I'm doing, that'd be cool. Let me know. I'm not quite sure, so I'm still looking for the Jetstream waypoint or the Logan waypoint. And I have not found it yet. Nope. Not there, but this is definitely the ILS that we're going to take, so I'm going to tune that into nav 1 so I have it. Might as well tune in the nav 2 just in case we get a some of the airliners, if you tune into both, they'll do an auto land. I don't think that's the case for this one. And I don't know where that last waypoint is, but I'm guessing we're going to find it soon. So fair enough. Let's just see where this takes us. We're 16 nautical miles away, and then we'll find out. So thanks everybody for your comments and watching. Just to recap, we are going from Miami to Tampa. Yesterday we did that, but we used the air traffic control, and it was pretty loud. It was talking over me, so other people couldn't participate and watch. So this time we are going a little differently. We're using our GPS. I have a flight plan on the screen for everybody to watch, so you can see that. And I plan to do tutorials, so don't worry folks. This is not a new trend of doing tons of live streams, but I am just trying to understand. I am wondering if you guys have any thoughts on this. The overlay that you see on your screen. My thought is that it might be helpful to you guys in the sense of if I'm doing a particular tutorial of how to do, say, an ILS landing or something like that, and you guys are following along and maybe you're not able to replicate what I've done, my thought was not only with the live stream, but potentially if I was to do a recording and post a tutorial video, having these tickers on the screen would give you something to know the pitch, the angle, my vertical speed, and even my flight plan, so that you guys are able to follow along with me. So that's something that I'm wondering if you guys would be interested in seeing on a tutorial, or if I should keep tutorials open as much as I can so you don't see these ticker bars. Hey Trevor, yeah, I tried yesterday turning off the ETC sounds and just having the text, but unfortunately I wasn't paying close enough attention to know when the air traffic control was sending me text, so often I was missing their instructions. So I might have to look in some audio channels or recording it through live stream and doing a local recording and then re-uploading the audio. So I do have the original recording of yesterday's session. It's 28 gigs. I am going to do some editing and auto ducking the volume, so when air traffic control is talking, it's softer and you can hear my voice. And I'll delete the live stream later on next week and upload the version that has the better audio ducking in there. But for now, it's not bad. So glad to hear, Villa, that the overlay is awesome. So that's thanks to a fella named Ben Overlays. You can do a Google search for that. He makes these overlays. You can add that into X-Plane as a plugin, and you get these awesome overlays that you see here. So let's check out where we are in our flight. We are about 3 nautical miles away from our next waypoint of Rogan, and then we're going on to our arrival. Now, I don't know why. I would really like to find this waypoint, J Stream. So the other thing is, we are getting kind of close here. So I think I'm going to start slowing down my speed and getting down to about, we'll say, 8,000 feet. So for those of you interested in how I do that, I'm going to go to the Alt dial here, get down to 8,000, and then I'm going to do flight level change. Flight level change respects my speed, so if you can see, it's at 214 knots, but I'm not actually descending now. So the only way I'll start descending is to lower my throttle here. So let's put the multifunction display on the screen. You can see my N1 for my throttle. So as I lower my throttle down here, you can see the horizontal situation indicator start to tilt downwards. So by doing flight level change, it's going to maintain my 214 knots, so I'm not losing speed, and it'll adjust the pitch to maintain that speed down to my desired altitude of 8,000 feet. So on our way down to 8,000, things are getting close, folks. We are on our way to an approach. Maybe if I zoom in like this, I will get an idea of where we are going. So there's Rogan, there's Drek. Then the big question is, where is Jetstream? There's Jetstream. And then KPTE, but where's KPTA is the question. So looks like we still got a little ways to go, but it should get very interesting very soon. So I'll leave it at 50 nautical miles for now. I do want to land through instrument landing, ILS, today. We weren't able to do that yesterday because I wasn't so bright and I just happened to not check the CDI, so hopefully that doesn't work. And yeah. Don't know yet. So right now I'm having fun doing everything, so I kind of enjoy having my hands in all kinds of things there. Probably not pronouncing it right, but Agentic, I guess, I'm hoping. Argentis. So I am playing with Amazon Web Services, playing with Azure, looking at the Google Cloud Platform, Bitnami, continuous development lifecycle stuff, infrastructure as code. So I have a lot to learn. We're just playing around in cloud to understand it, better understand the security aspects of it, the risks of it. So far, there's a lot to learn, that's for sure. The pilot thing is something I always wanted to do, always wanted to be a pilot. And then I started to do some pricing of flying around in a Cessna wet. It's about $175 an hour. So my dream was I live about 14-hour drive away from where I'm from, and it'd be nice to go home and take a plane there. But if I was to fly there, we're probably looking at a 6 to 8 hour flight at $200 an hour, and that back if I was to rent one. So it's just, I don't think it's practical. So At the same time, I think it's fun that I go through the process of learning. So I purchased a book called From the Ground Up, and it's got all the metrics of how you would actually, how the aircraft works and how they stay in the air and all that stuff. Spend a lot of time reading the G1000 manual and things like that. So who knows? I think perhaps in 10, 15 years maybe, or maybe earlier, as I get a little older, I want to consider buying a plane. But for now, the only thing that interests me is if I was to have these toys. So being in technology and flying a Cessna 172 without a glass cockpit does not make me excited. But this glass cockpit does get me excited because it's kind of technology, right? So that's kind of fun. So I think if the technology in some of the planes at the price points that we might be able to afford get better, where perhaps we have some of these toys and widgets where we can do our flight planning. We don't have to know every aspect of aviation. That'd be cool. My interest was in something called the Icon A5. So there was a ultralight plane called the Icon A5. I think it was about 180 grand, so still a bit too rich for me. But maybe one day in the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years, as they start to mass produce flying cars and all kinds of other crazy stuff, perhaps these things will become cheaper. But for now, it's much cheaper to fly at a $100 copy of X-Plane than it is to fly in the real world. So I totally understand, Trevor. So let's have a look. Looking at the ticker tape there, we're just over the halfway mark, 8,000 feet. Let's have a look. We are approaching Rogan, so what if I zoom in now? Will we figure out if this particular plan of mine is going to work? That is what I would like to know. On the real G1000, from what I read, you're able to use this rangefinder, and you're able to use the rangefinder to scroll around the map, but not in this one. I also hope X-Plane will fix the graphics. So if you look on my screen, both the MFD and PFD have the autopilot controls right on the G1000, but when you zoom in on the actual cockpit display, not so. They are missing there. So that's a little bug that Laminar Research needs to address. What I have downloaded today, though, folks, I think it's called FS Economy, and apparently it is a kind of a game within Flight Simulator, Microsoft Flight Simulator, Flight Sim World, and X-Plane. And it lets you fly the simulator as you were basically making money or something like that. So you would rent an aircraft, you would pay for fuel, you would fly cargo missions, and if you screwed up, you may bankrupt yourself. So I downloaded that, I installed it, I went to the forums today and created an account, and I'm hoping that maybe in the future I can do some live streams of that. That might be kind of cool. So I hope to maybe do some live we'll say business flying in this game virtually using FS Economy, which is an add-on. Was kind of technical. Had to install some Python engines and some scripts, but I'll let you know more in a couple days, and maybe I'll do a live stream of that. We're going to go down to 5,000 feet now, so I toned it down to 5. We'll go flight level change again, and I will go ahead and adjust my speed accordingly so we can go down. And there we go. So let's just drop our throttle down to say 20% just to get down to 5,000. While that's happening, I'm going to look at the map and see if we can go back to figuring out what's going on. So we're approaching Rogan, and there was something that started with Jet. Oh, there's our Derek waypoint. It was sandwiched between another one there. Dirac. Okay, cool. So that's good. Where would the other one be is the question. The one that says Jetsam. So maybe it's sandwiched on this one too. Nope. We keep going. Oh, there's our jet stream. Okay. And then what happens after that? Then it's KTPA. Okay, right. There we go. So that's perfect. So we go to jet stream. So we're basically lining up direct with the waypoint, with the runway, folks. So yeah, looking at here, we're going to come down this airway, hit the jet stream waypoint, and then we are going to go to 01 left. So since I got some time and are on our way down to 5,000 feet here, once I get the 5,000 feet there, I will show you my plugins there. Looks like we got some clouds too, so good thing we are doing an ILS landing today because the weather's not so great. To the right hand side is our vertical speed, so we're going minus about 1,400 feet per minute. Plane will level out when we get to 5,000, and I'll then bring up the throttle to about 80% again. That beep or that tone that you just heard means we're 1,000 feet away from our desired altitude. So when we get to 5,000, I will bump up the speed a little bit, and then we will go ahead and I'll show you some plugins. And it might be a fun and bumpy ride today. Awesome, Wojtek. Okay, cool. So it looks like we're going to line up. Like I said, this is first time flying this approach. We did the ATC yesterday. This is my own approach on sim route, so I'm just hoping that I picked the right settings. So it could go good, it could go bad, but yesterday Sly, I think, showed me that Sly or Sky, I can't remember if we had another fellow yesterday, showed us the parachute in the Cirris Vision SF50. And it does work. So if we run into problems, I guess we always have that. So let's go ahead and increase our N1 here to about, say, 75. We don't want to go too fast. Just have to slow down again. And there we go. We're approaching our waypoint. So you're interested in seeing the plugins I use. Let's have a look. So X Economy is the plugin I just mentioned. This is that game. Basically, it turns X-Plane into a game where basically you have to rent aircraft. You might have to fly a rental from one airport to another to pick it up, and then you have to buy fuel, and you have to run cargo missions. I'm still waiting for my account to be created. It's a manual process, so when I know more on that, it requires this Python interface. This XPU IPC is what's required for the overlay that you see on Open Broadcaster Studio. So basically Open Broadcaster Studio interfaces with this and something called Ben Overlay, and that's how you're seeing the tickers at the top. And I just realized that you probably can't see that because of the ticker here. So let me go in and cut that off for a sec, folks. I'm going to do a switch without overlays. So there we go. That should be a little better for you. So we'll do that again, looking at the plugins. You can see the Python interface and the X Economy. Those are the game I mentioned, and I haven't played yet. I have the XPU IPC, which is required for the overlays that I just turned off. If we go into the plugin I'm in, we can see about the only other thing I have is ground traffic for a specific airport. So I fly pretty much vanilla. You could overlay all kinds of plugins, but I prefer going without plugins as much as I can. Nothing wrong with plugins, but it's nice to go just vanilla. So here I am. I'm approaching this. I have no idea if I'm too high. Let's hope that I can see KTPA. So better safe than sorry, folks. So let's get down to... We're going to go vertical speed, nose down, because I don't care about my speed now. And I want to get down to, we'll say 2,000. Enable vertical speed mode, nose down. We're not in a rush, so we'll just do something like 800 feet per minute until we get to 2. I'll start slowing down a little bit because I'm kind of over speeding. And let's see, I don't see the ID yet, so we're not that close to the nav aid for the ILS yet, so we're still far away. I'm just going to make sure that it's tuned, nav 1 and 2. how will I know? Well, what will happen is to the right hand side of the top left, which is our navigation frequency information, I'm going to see the actual ID. So you used to have to listen to the Morse code. That's no longer the case. Now it'll show up the ID. You can listen to the Morse code though by going over here to this button and clicking the middle button. These double arrows will change to an ID like so, and then I can hear the Morse code. So we're going down to 2,000 feet, which is a bit early at this point in the flight, but I don't want to mess this up, folks. So until I fly this a couple more times, it is what it is. So actually, maybe we'll go like, we'll say 2,500 or something like that. There we go, 2,500. We'll put vertical speed back on again, and we'll go nose down to 500 feet per minute. We're not in a rush. We'll go to 2,500. There we go. And lots of wind bouncing us around there, so that's kind of cool. So let's recap. On our way down, we're going towards the airport. I don't see the glide slope or the ILS yet. Our true airspeed is at the bottom, taking into consideration the pressure and our current air mass that we're flying through is about 200 knots. On our way down to 2,500 feet. We're tuned in to nav 1. So we're pretty much ready. We just gotta, get our flaps going and things. So let's check out our multifunction display. It says we're 45 seconds away from our direct waypoint. So let's zoom in a little bit. Ah, that is how we do it, folks. I think I figured out how to move the map around. So it works here. And there we go. Look at that. Isn't that neat? Okay, so that is how you scroll the map around. You move your mouse randomly until you find this little pointer like this, which is almost impossible to find. Very cool. So let's go ahead and see what's going on here. Will this let me get the range? Well, it doesn't want me to do the range anymore since I did that. And it looks like X-Plane is starting to spaz out there. I'm hoping I'm not going to get a crash. There we go. So that's good. And let's zoom in to about 30 nautical miles so we can see what's going on. So are you flying the same airplane there, Sly? If you are, then basically first things first, click on autopilot, then click on vertical speed, and then click nose down or up, and on the right hand side you will see this. If you're flying the old Cessna, the non-glass cockpit version, then it's a different way. There's an older way to do that, so I'm not quite sure which aircraft you're flying, but if you're using the glass cockpit, that is how it's done. And we are about 500 feet away from our 2,500 feet. So let's check the map again. We're going to go to our approach, and eventually we will see our KTPA show up with runway 01, and then we'll be able to see the glide slope down below. And we are still a little ways away. There we are, our little guy flying along this beautiful airway on our way to this particular waypoint jet stream, and then we're going to turn and do an ILS landing right there. So we'll come back in about 3 minutes when hopefully we're close enough to see this. Yeah, I do find that when you pop out the instruments that sometimes things do get buggy. The other thing, I don't know if I told you guys, but I told the previous crowd, is there is a way to set up controls for cameras. So right now, I have it on my Eclipse yoke that when I press one button, I get this view, and when I press the other button, I'm inside the cockpit. But let's say I want a view where I'm zoomed in on the actual instruments, like so. So maybe I want to show off the instruments so you guys can see them. So I just move my keys around until I'm happy with this view, and I can tilt the mouse a little bit to get in straight. Let's just say almost perfect. There we go. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to press Control on the keyboard and then 0, And that's going to save that as a key. So now when I press my key on the Eclipse yoke, I have my cockpit. I press my other key on the Eclipse yoke, which is basically pressing a number key. I think it's 7 I have set up and 1. So 1 is inside the cockpit, 7's outside the plane. And when I press 0, it zooms me in. So that is a neat feature that if you want to create custom views of your aircraft, maybe when you're landing, you want to kind of look over at the nose of the aircraft like so. So what you can do is, as I mentioned, hold control, press the button on the keypad to your desired 1 through 9 or 0, and then press the button again without holding control, and it'll zoom to that particular camera view. So that's kind of cool. We are getting close, folks. The ticker tape is showing we're only 29 nautical miles away, and look at this, look at this. We have our ILS showing up here, IAMP. So if I go over here and click the ID button, you should start hearing the Morse code soon. Might be kind of faint on the stream, but so there we go. So we are on our way. So now I should be getting soon the approach, which I don't see yet. So it's going to all happen pretty fast. What's going to happen? I'm going to turn off GPS. I'm going to turn on nav 1. I'm going to activate the approach. I'm going to put my flaps down. I'm going to put my landing gear down. And I'm going to press the CDI button to change from GPS mode to nav 1. And we're going to hope for the best. And if not, you guys are standing by for me to press the parachute button, I bet. So let's just see what's going to happen. This is a really good tool, folks, so if you don't use this, I highly recommend it. When you're in the map mode by pressing M, you go to approach. It probably only does it about 15 nautical miles away, and you're going to see your airport show up eventually. And when let's just click a random one, it'll show you coming in. And when you get to this middle of the glide slope, this is basically where you activate your approach, and you should be good from there. But until you get to this part, there's no guarantees. So we're still waiting for KTPA to show up. This is the runway we'll be flying in on, 01 left. So let's set up actually our heading. We'll go to the heading knob here and we'll set it to 10 for 01 left. You should always set your heading bug to the runway heading. So since we're going 01 left, we will set our heading to 010. We're not going to activate the heading mode of the GPS. We're still flying our GPS path here. And you can see here, Jetstream's 3.6 nautical miles away, and then we're 18 nautical miles away from the airport. So very soon, we should be traveling to make our turn. And I don't see them yet. So let's get some music going, folks. We have to have one song play before we land. Let me know if it's too loud. If you don't have the approach on here, there's a little switch here called Show Glide Slope Section, and you just check that off or on like so. Okay, here we go. More are popping up. KTPF, we need A. Here we go. Still don't see the airport. KPT. So we might actually have to fly this ourselves. See what happens here. KPTA, there we go, 01 left. You can see folks here. So we're not quite in the glide slope yet, but we're getting there. So I'm going to turn off the GPS, turn it to CDI mode. So I just press CDI. No, usually I do about 1,500, between 1,000 and 1,500 is kind of that. In a Cessna, maybe about 500 to 800, depending on how much of an incline you would like. All right, we're getting close. Flaps down to 10, landing gear. And I'm going to activate the autopilot and the approach button. There we go. You can see I have the glide slope on, and I'm currently descending now. So let's see what happens, folks. Almost there. So basically what will happen is the aircraft will get to this middle part, which is our 3-degree glide slope, and then it should basically automatically kind of start to adjust and get our descent going. Or we hope. It didn't yesterday, but all the right parameters are set up here. We have our GS button here. Oh, there we go. See this little triangle here? This shows me we're above the glide slope here. So see this triangle? As this little triangle comes down to the middle here in our primary flight display, once we hit this middle part, we should latch onto it, and it should match us coming into this 3-degree glide slope here on the screen. So you can see on the screen here, the triangle is going down. So this means we've captured the glide slope. There we go. And now we are being turned automatically by the ILS, and this green button is basically setting us up for our descent. So let's see what happens. Let's see what happens. We're descending. That's a good sign. Runway looks like it's there. There's the runway. We might pull this off, folks. Alright, so what I did there was I programmed a GPS approach, which I showed you guys. And I'm going to set that down to 500 feet. 400 feet is basically what the ILS should take you to, and then you should disengage it. So I did a flight plan, which is on your screen. I can't see it right now. I flew the flight plan. I then got to about 3,000 feet. I switched to nav 1, which you can see on the screen here. 108.90 is the active ILS frequency here. And then I had the glide slope up above. The G means I'm on the glide slope. The green triangle means I'm on it, and it's now automatically descending for me. So all I did is hit the approach, the autopilot button, and the approach button, and then the CDI, setting it to lock 1, which is our nav 1. And it looks like we're lining up. So you got to be careful. You do have to look at the approach charts for the various airports, because each airport's slightly different. So basically, the localizer is actually off by a certain number of degrees, so you won't actually line up with the runway. You'll actually go off the runway. So you got to be careful. But what I recommend is when we get to about 500 feet, 400 feet, we'll disengage the autopilot. I haven't set up a hotkey for that yet on this particular aircraft, but I recommend that you do that. And then we'll take this bird in manually. So let's wish us luck. Let's have a look. coming in for a beautiful landing into Tampa. And I guess we should probably set up our landing lights, right? There we go. There we go. Some nice bright lights shining at us. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and turn off the autopilot. You can see the PAPI lights there. I'll start slowing down. And there's no rush to land, so what I kind of like to do is kind of pull up a little bit here, do a little flare at the end. That will slow us down a little bit. So there we go. That'll slow us down for a nice touchdown. There we go. Welcome to Tampa, folks. Welcome to Tampa. We have made it safely. We have pulled off an ILS landing. We didn't last night, but we did tonight. So that's good. A little bit fast for the taxiway, but it is a simulator. And we see lots of big aircraft here waiting. So let's go ahead and pull up beside one of these guys and show them who's boss. And because I got to do it, let's hit the parachute button. Parachute. Oh, I guess it's in the ground. You can't see it there, but there's a little string there for the parachute. So be it. We'll put the parachute back in, and we will lean our way into this gate. And because we're a little bit short, I guess the folks will have to simply walk in ourselves. So we did it, folks. We did it. This is awesome. So the big lesson here in X-Plane is if you don't succeed the first time, don't get discouraged. You can succeed the second time. So we did a live flight yesterday. It didn't work out so well. We landed, and then once we landed, we decided to have some fun and pull off a parachute. And it was kind of fun. So thanks for joining us for an hour and 7 minutes on this live stream. You tell me in the comments, do you prefer live streams? Do you prefer the tutorials that I create? Do you want to see a bit of both? Are you interested in this FS economy game that I'm looking into? Should I be doing some live streams of that once I figure it out? Should I pretty much just be sticking to the traditional tutorials that I've been creating? So let me know in the comments. Thanks again for joining us. And I'll probably be doing another live stream sometime midweek. Have a great week next week, folks. All right. Take care.